Pile of Twitter questions for you, Peter. We were asking for your questions earlier on. Has distribution and being able to play out from the back become more important in a world-class goalkeeper now than perhaps it was 10, 20 years ago?
I think in general, yes, absolutely in general. I think goalkeepers now must be football players as well. They must be that. As soon as then he's not defending, he becomes an outfield player, if you like. So he needs to have really good technique with his feet. He needs to be able to distribute the ball to any of it's easy to roll it to the right-hand side. But we see this pass that goes across field from right-hand side over to the left-hand side to a full-back, or obviously the other way as well. We see that very often. It's a very effective way to divert pressure, if you like.
Did you do a lot of work on that when that back pass rule came in?
But I tell you what, the very first day in training, so Brian Kidd's the coach, so he said, okay, 2 boxes, and Peter, you can go with the goalkeeper and you can do some half volleys. I'm like, no, I'm not. I want to be in the box. I always used to be in the boxes for the purpose of showing my teammates that I could be trusted with my feet. And also, it was a little bit of being with the team. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing was that they knew that I could actually deal with the ball. And it took up, so that it was a standoff of 5 minutes, they were like this, no, yes, no. And eventually I went in, and from that moment on, every goalkeeper that's been at Man United has been in the boxes, because it's important. Mm. It really is important. The rules were changing halfway through my United time. So when I first started, you could pick up back passes. That sounds ridiculous now, but you could pick up a back pass with your hands. That changed, so you had to use your feet. And I was so happy that I insisted on being part of, the boxes and some of the footwork as well, because I could deal with that. So a lot of guys couldn't deal with that because they were the guys who actually was put to one side to do half volleys to each other.
Goalkeepers all around the country now demanding to join in with training sessions. Quite right too. Yeah. Is technique the most important part of goalkeeping? And if not, what is?
Technique in what way?
Well, let's phrase this slightly differently. We were talking about David De Gea earlier, and there was a word that unorthodox came up. Yeah. Does it matter how you keep the ball out of the net?
For me, it doesn't matter. I think understanding of your job is the most important thing. Understanding what your team needs and what is your job and what is the team's job. We have to assume that's a basic level of goalkeeping ability when we talk about this, because you can't say, is a save more important than a good pass? That's not it. But once we get to that point, I think the understanding, the concentration, and the football or goalkeeping intelligence, really, they are the most important things. And when we talked about De Gea earlier on, he's got all that. He understands exactly. So it's not, with the situation at Liverpool, he's not just phasing. First of all, he thinks it's a shot, but he's not just facing that. He knows what's going on behind him. He's already spotted that, and that's part of the intelligence. It's part of your experience, really. But you have to have a level of understanding of what the job is, and that is part of that is to look and read and be ready for eventualities.
And this is just a quick follow on that, and I'm guessing you'll say yes to this. Is saving with legs just an instinct, or do goalkeepers work really hard at that?
For me, it was part of my game, so I can't speak for any other goalkeeper. It's part of my game. I used to play handball. I used to be in goal with handball, and you use your legs as much as you use your arms. You never catch anything. You're sort of like doing all that. So I was used to that, and I always felt I didn't care how I saved the ball. I just didn't care. Save the ball, and if it goes back in play, I deal with the next situation.
Here's one on the mental side. Were you ever distracted during any games? It seemed like you always had perfect focus.
I think that's the concentration that I talked about before. You gotta be.
How do you train for that? How do you get better at that?
Physically, you have to be really fit. That helps. You have to have, it's not half. You must be a bit arrogant as well, because you got to be arrogant.
You're arrogant.
To the point where
watch that elbow.
You never make mistakes.
Bang, bang.
You never make, in your mind, You have to tell yourself you've never made a mistake. Even though you've made a mistake that cost a goal, you have to tell yourself that wasn't your fault.
Is that the biggest thing in a big club? You're talking about
Yeah.
certain keepers at certain clubs, the concentration and decision making, because you may be only going to save 3 or 4 shots in 90 minutes.
I think this is, we talked about it earlier about De Gea is it's a test for him this season because the team's playing in a different way. He won't be worked so much this season as he's been worked in other seasons because it is a different way that the team plays. So can he keep his concentration? Can he stay with the game? And so far, every box is ticked. He has that ability, but that is the big challenge. There are some goalkeepers out there that needs to be involved in the game in order to perform. But when you play for the top teams, you might have goalkeeping action for 25 seconds in the whole game, and that's it. And that includes, dealing with shots, dealing with crosses. Then most of the job you do is goal kicks, back passes and distribution. And that can be, if you're not focused and if you're not concentrated enough to deal with those, I'm saying 25, it's just top of my head, but it's not much. That can be the difference between winning the league and not winning the league.
Can I ask you something? Is every goalkeeper a good shot stopper? They say it about every keeper. He's a good shot stopper. That's your job, isn't it?
That's the basics.
Yeah. So they're all good at it.
So that should be the basics, and then you build from there, and then you take distribution. You take so much else into consideration, but they should be.
Do you think it's becoming a young man's game as well? Do you think it's becoming a young man's game?
That's a really strange part. It is. It's a young man's game now. It's not my game anymore.